I stood in the doorway of the yoga studio, my heart pounding as I watched her. Liza, my wife, was wrapped in the arms of our yoga instructor, a man whose calm demeanor and chiseled features had always rubbed me the wrong way. They were supposed to be practicing sun salutations, but instead, they looked like they were caught in a moment straight out of a romance novel. My breath caught in my throat as a wave of disbelief washed over me. For years, Liza and I had been the perfect couple in everyone's eyes. We laughed together, shared our dreams, and navigated life's ups and downs side by side. But something had changed in the last few months. She had started taking yoga classes more frequently, always returning home with that blissful, slightly distant look in her eyes. I thought it was just her passion for fitness, but now I was faced with a stark reality that I couldn't ignore. I clenched my fists, the edges of my phone digging into my palm, and fought the urge to confront them right there. Instead, I stepped back into the shadows, heart racing, mind spiraling. I knew I had to gather evidence, something concrete that would expose this betrayal. I quietly slipped out of the studio, determination building within me. Over the next few weeks, I became a master of subterfuge. I bought a small camera and strategically placed it in the corner of the studio during their classes. With each passing session, I watched the footage, each moment a dagger to my heart. The way Liza laughed at his jokes, the way she leaned into him during stretches, it was all too intimate. My mind spun with thoughts of betrayal and rage. One night I sat on our couch, the glow of the laptop illuminating my face as I replayed the recordings. I felt like a voyeur in my own life, but I couldn't stop. Each clip only fueled my fury, and I began to dream up the most deliciously devious plan for revenge. I wanted them both to feel the pain they had inflicted on me, to know that I wouldn't be a silent victim. I reached out to my friend Jake, who had a knack for technology. "I want to upload this footage," I told him, voice trembling with a mixture of excitement and dread. He raised an eyebrow but agreed to help. We spent hours perfecting the editing, ensuring it looked professional. The more I saw it take shape, the more satisfied I felt. This would be my moment. The day of the upload arrived, and as I clicked post, a mix of triumph and anxiety coursed through me. I imagined the chaos that would erupt from this single act, how the yoga community would react, how Liza would face her peers. My phone buzzed incessantly as notifications flooded in. Comments ranged from shock to outrage, and I felt a sick satisfaction with each ding. As the fallout began, I noticed a shift in Liza. She came home that night, her face pale and eyes wide with disbelief. "Henry, what have you done?" she demanded, tears spilling down her cheeks. I feigned ignorance, letting her believe that I was just as surprised as everyone else. But inside, I felt a twisted sense of victory. The instructor lost clients almost overnight, his reputation tarnished beyond repair. I watched him from a distance as he stood in the same studio, but now, he was a shell of the man who once commanded the room with ease. And Liza? She became the talk of the town, the woman whose infidelity had become a viral spectacle. Yet, even as I savored my revenge, guilt began to creep in. I hadn't just hurt them, I had shattered the fragile foundation of my own marriage. Liza was not the only one at fault, and as I saw her unravel, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had crossed a line from which we might never return. In the silence that followed, I realized that I had to make a choice. Either I could keep feeding this cycle of anger and shame, or I could try to confront the real issue between us. But with the world watching, could I find the courage to face her and begin to pick up the pieces? The days that followed the video's release blurred into a haze of chaos and regret. Liza was a ghost of the woman I once knew, wandering our home like a lost soul. She hardly spoke, and when she did, her words were clipped, laced with disbelief and hurt. I could see the toll it took on her. Her eyes were sunken, and her once vibrant spirit dimmed. I tried to convince myself that I had done the right thing, that this was justice served. But each time I caught a glimpse of her, guilt gnawed at me like a persistent rat. She was not just my wife, she was my partner, my confidant. And now, I had turned our life into a public spectacle. One evening I found myself sitting on the couch staring at the wall. Liza entered the room, hesitating in the doorway as if unsure whether to approach me. Her face was pale, and the shadows under her eyes deepened with every passing moment. I could feel the weight of our silence pressing down, thick and suffocating. "Henry," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper, "why did you do it?" I opened my mouth to speak, but the words wouldn't come. How could I explain the swirling mix of betrayal and anger that had driven me to this point? Instead, I looked down, the shame flooding me. "I thought you loved me," she continued, her voice breaking. "How could you expose me like that? You didn't even think about what it would do to us." "I thought I was protecting us," I replied, the defensiveness creeping into my tone. "You were with him, Liza. You were betraying me." "That's not true." She took a step closer, desperation etched on her face. "I made a mistake, but it wasn't just about the yoga. It was about us. About the distance that's grown between us. I thought we could fix it. I didn't want to lose you. Her words hit me like a slap. I had been so consumed by my need for revenge that I had ignored the real issue. Our relationship had been fraying for months, maybe even years. The laughter and love we once shared had faded, and I had been too blinded by rage to see it. I didn't know you felt that way, I admitted, feeling the weight of my own failure. I thought everything was fine. I thought we were happy. Liza sighed, frustration and sadness mingling in her expression. We've been drifting, Henry. The yoga classes, the late nights. There was a disconnect, and I didn't know how to reach out to you. In that moment, I saw a glimpse of the woman I fell in love with, the one who would laugh at my silly jokes and share her dreams with me late into the night. I had let anger blind me to the cracks forming in our relationship, and now I felt the urge to reach out, to bridge that distance. I'm sorry, I said, the words feeling heavy but necessary. I let my anger control me. I didn't think about how it would affect you or us. Liza looked at me, her expression softening slightly. We need to talk about this, really talk. I don't want to be defined by this scandal. I want to understand what we can do to fix this. I nodded, feeling a flicker of hope in my chest. We can try, but it's going to take time and it's not going to be easy. I'm willing to try, she replied, her voice stronger now. But you have to promise not to run away from the tough conversations anymore. I could see the resolve in her eyes, and I knew that I had to match it. We were in a deep hole, but for the first time since this all began, I felt like there was a way out. It wouldn't be easy, and there would be scars, but perhaps we could start to rebuild. As we sat on the couch, an awkward yet intimate silence enveloped us. I reached out, taking her hand in mine. It felt foreign yet familiar, and I knew that this was just the beginning. We had a long road ahead, but together perhaps we could navigate the murky waters of our own making. The world outside was still buzzing with rumors and gossip, but in this moment it was just the two of us, ready to face whatever came next. The next few days were a blur of emotions, a roller coaster of hope and despair. Liza and I had agreed to talk, really talk, but the reality of what lay ahead felt daunting. I was consumed by the aftermath of my actions, a mix of regret and guilt lingering in the air between us. The world outside continued to buzz with the fallout of the video, but in our small apartment we needed to confront the real issues at hand. We decided to start with the basics, what had brought us to this point. I had spent so much time fixated on my anger and the betrayal that I hadn't taken the time to understand what Liza was feeling. It was time to listen, to peel back the layers of hurt and confusion that had built up over the years. That Friday evening we sat on the couch, the dim light casting soft shadows across the room. Liza had a notebook in her lap, her fingers nervously flipping through the pages. I could tell she was trying to gather her thoughts, to put into words the turmoil she felt inside. Okay, she began, taking a deep breath. I want to start by saying I'm sorry. I didn't handle things well. I should have talked to you before things got out of hand. Her eyes searched mine, looking for understanding. I'm sorry too, I replied, feeling the weight of my own admission. I let my anger take over. I thought I could fix everything with revenge, but I just made it worse. I felt alone for a long time, she continued, her voice trembling slightly. The yoga classes became my escape. I found solace there, something I didn't feel at home. I never intended to hurt you, but I didn't know how to reach out. The pain in her words resonated with me. I had been so caught up in my own feelings of betrayal that I had ignored the signs of her distress. I didn't realize how distant we'd become, I said. I thought we were just busy, that it was normal, but I should have checked in on you. Liza nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. I wanted to feel connected again. When I met him, it was just comforting, you know? It was a distraction from the reality we were living in. The admission stung, but I knew it was important for me to hear it. I wanted to understand. What can we do to reconnect? I asked, my voice steady. I want to fix this. I don't want us to drift apart anymore. Liza wiped a tear away and took a deep breath. We need to be honest with each other, even when it's hard. We have to prioritize our relationship, no matter what else is happening in our lives. Maybe we can start small, like scheduling regular date nights, talking openly about our feelings, and trying to be present for each other. The idea resonated with me, and a spark of hope ignited. I'd like that. We can plan something fun this weekend, just the two of us, to remind ourselves why we fell in love in the first place. A small smile broke through her tears. I'd love that, but we also need to talk about the scandal. It's not just going to disappear, and we have to face the fallout together. The weight of her words settled heavily between us. I had been so focused on our personal issues that I hadn't considered the impact of the public fallout. You're right, I said. How do we handle this? First, we need to talk to each other about how we feel, but we also need to address it with our friends and family. I don't want to hide from this, she said, her voice firm. It's part of our story now, and we have to own it. I nodded, appreciating her strength. We'll face it together. We can explain what happened and how we're working on moving forward. It's going to be tough, but I don't want to run from it. As we continued to talk, we both began to feel a sense of clarity and purpose. Each revelation brought us closer, transforming our shared pain into a foundation for rebuilding. I could see the light of hope flickering in her eyes, and it mirrored my own. By the time we finished our conversation, I felt lighter, as if we had released some of the tension that had been strangling us for so long. We were not out of the woods yet, but we had taken the first steps towards healing. That night, as we lay in bed, I took Liza's hand in mine, our fingers intertwining like a promise. "We'll get through this," I whispered, and for the first time in weeks I truly believed it. Together we could navigate the rocky road ahead, learning to trust and love each other again, one conversation at a time. The weekend arrived with a mix of anticipation and dread. Liza and I had spent the last few days in a whirlwind of conversations, trying to untangle the mess our lives had become. We had planned a simple date night, a dinner at our favorite restaurant followed by a walk in the park. It felt like a step in the right direction, but I could still sense the shadows of our recent troubles lingering over us. As I watched Liza get ready, I noticed the way she carefully applied her makeup, her movements delicate and thoughtful. For the first time in a while, I could see the woman I fell in love with, the one who radiated confidence and warmth. I wanted to tell her how beautiful she looked, but a knot of uncertainty tightened in my stomach. Would she believe me? Would she see past the hurt and the betrayal? "Ready?" I finally asked, forcing a smile. She turned to me, her eyes brightening slightly. "Almost. Just need a minute." As I waited, I took a moment to reflect. I had always loved how she could light up a room with her laughter, but now it felt like we were both tiptoeing around a fragile glass vase, afraid to shatter it. When she finally emerged, dressed in a flowy blue dress that hugged her curves just right, I was momentarily speechless. "You look amazing," I said, the sincerity in my voice catching me off guard. "Thanks," she replied, her smile tentative but genuine. "You don't look too bad yourself." We headed out, the evening air cool and refreshing. I drove us to the restaurant, trying to keep the conversation light, but the weight of unspoken words hung between us. The restaurant was busy, filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses. We were seated at a small table tucked in the corner, and for a moment, it felt like we were in our own world. Over dinner, I made an effort to focus on her. We talked about mundane topics, the weather, our work, the silly things we used to enjoy together. Yet every time I caught her gaze, I saw the flicker of sadness that hadn't completely vanished. "I know we're avoiding the elephant in the room," Liza said, her voice steady but soft, "but I want to be honest about how I feel." I nodded, encouraging her to continue. "Go ahead." "I feel ashamed, not just about what happened with him, but about how I let things get so far. I should have reached out to you sooner," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I've been reflecting on everything, and I realize I lost myself somewhere along the way." Her honesty struck a chord deep within me. I feel the same way. I let my anger consume me and turned to revenge instead of trying to communicate. "We both let this happen." Liza sighed, her eyes welling up with tears. "I just don't want to be that person anymore. I want it to be better for us, for me." "We can be better," I replied, reaching across the table to take her hand. "Let's promise to always talk, even when it's uncomfortable." She squeezed my hand, a small smile breaking through the tears. "That's a promise I want to keep." After dinner, we walked to the nearby park, the night filled with the sounds of crickets and distant laughter. We strolled along the path hand in hand, finding solace in the familiar routine. As we reached a secluded bench, we sat down, the weight of the world feeling a little lighter in that moment. "I want to start over," Liza said, her voice filled with determination. "Not erase what happened, but build from it. We can turn this into a lesson rather than a burden." I could see the fire in her eyes, and it ignited something within me too. "I'm with you. We can redefine our relationship together. It's going to take time, but I believe we can do it." In that moment, the fear that had gripped me for weeks began to dissipate. I realized that while the road ahead would be rocky, we were on this journey together. I felt a sense of hope rising within me, a quiet but persistent belief that we could navigate our way through this storm. As we sat there, wrapped in the warmth of each other's presence, I understood that love was not just a feeling, it was a choice, a commitment to weather the storms together. And in that commitment, perhaps we could find a way back to the love we once had, and create something even stronger in its place. The following week was filled with a new energy, one that felt fragile yet promising. Liza and I committed to being open with each other, and although it was challenging, it was also liberating. We started discussing our feelings regularly, whether about our relationship or the external pressures we faced due to the scandal. The reactions from friends and family had been mixed. Some were supportive, while others were shocked and disappointed. I dreaded running into those who had seen the video, but Liza insisted we confront it head-on. She felt that if we faced the discomfort together, we could emerge stronger. I agreed, but a part of me still wanted to hide. One evening, Liza suggested we invite a couple of close friends over for dinner. It seemed like a good idea, a chance to reclaim our social life while also addressing the elephant in the room. I was nervous but recognized it was a step towards healing. As the evening approached, I found myself pacing the kitchen, chopping vegetables with a bit more force than necessary. Liza entered, her hair pulled back in a loose bun, wearing a simple yet elegant dress. She looked beautiful, and despite the anxiety bubbling in my chest, I felt a flicker of hope seeing her smile. "Are you okay?" she asked, noticing my tension. "Yeah, just a little on edge," I admitted. "What if they have a lot of questions? What if it turns into a confrontation? We'll handle it together," she reassured me, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Remember, honesty is our new foundation. We can set the tone for the conversation." I nodded, trying to absorb her confidence. When our friends Mark and Sarah arrived, the atmosphere shifted. We greeted them with warm hugs and the initial small talk felt easy, a reminder of how things used to be. As we settled at the dinner table, Liza took a deep breath. "I think we should talk about everything," she said, glancing at me for support. "The video, the fallout? We want to be open with you both." Mark and Sarah exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from surprise to understanding. "We appreciate that," Mark said. "We've been concerned about you too. It's been hard to watch." Sarah chimed in. "We're here for you. Whatever you need, just say it." Liza started sharing our perspective, how we had both struggled in the aftermath, how our communication had faltered, and how the situation had spiraled out of control. I chimed in, explaining my feelings of betrayal and anger. It felt raw but necessary. As the conversation unfolded, I could see our friends processing everything. They asked questions, but instead of judgment, there was empathy. The atmosphere lightened, and soon laughter filled the room as we reminisced about shared memories. It was a balm to our wounded spirits. After dinner, we moved to the living room, where the conversation deepened. Mark and Sarah shared their own struggles in their relationship, revealing that they too had faced challenges. It was a reminder that no relationship was immune to difficulties. "I think what you both are doing is brave," Sarah said, looking at us with sincerity. "It's easy to run away when things get tough, but you're choosing to confront it." Liza and I exchanged glances, a silent acknowledgement of our progress. "It's not easy," I admitted, "but we're committed to trying." As the night wore on, we talked about everything and nothing, the tension of the earlier conversation dissipating into comfortable camaraderie. By the time our friends left, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. We had confronted the awkwardness, shared our vulnerabilities, and emerged with our friendships intact. After they left, Liza and I sat on the couch, the weight of the evening settling in. "That went better than I expected," I said, a smile spreading across my face. Liza leaned against me, her warmth comforting. "It really did. I think we took a huge step forward tonight." "Yeah," I agreed, feeling a sense of accomplishment. "We're not alone in this. We have support." As we sat in silence, the glow of the lamp casting a soft light over us, I realized how much had changed in such a short time. The journey ahead would still be challenging, but I felt a renewed sense of hope. We were learning to communicate, to confront our issues, and most importantly, to lean on each other. In that moment, I knew we could face whatever came next, together. The days following our dinner with Mark and Sarah felt lighter. Liza and I were making strides in rebuilding our relationship, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of normalcy returning to our lives. We set aside time each day to talk, whether over breakfast or during our evening walks, slowly mending the gaps that had formed between us. However, the shadows of the scandal still loomed. Despite our efforts to move forward, the reality was that the video had gone viral, and the world had taken note. I could see Liza's distress whenever she scrolled through social media, the comments both supportive and harsh. It was as if the incident was a constant reminder of our missteps, and I worried how it was impacting her. One evening, as we settled down for a movie, I noticed her scrolling through her phone, her brow furrowed. "What's wrong?" I asked, pausing the film. She looked up, a mix of frustration and sadness in her eyes. "It's just, people are still talking about it. Some comments are supportive, but others are brutal. It's hard to ignore." "Let's take a break from it," I suggested. "We can focus on us, on what we're building together. We don't have to let it consume us." She nodded, but I could tell the hurt lingered. "I know, but it's tough. I feel like I'm living in a glass house and everyone is watching." "Then let's do something to reclaim our narrative," I proposed, an idea sparking in my mind. "What if we host a gathering, not just with friends, but with the people from our community? We can take back control and show everyone that we're still here, still strong." Liza's expression brightened slightly. "You really think that would help?" "I do. It could be a way to remind everyone of who we are outside of this scandal. We can invite friends, family, and even some of the people from the yoga community who've been supportive." We started planning the gathering immediately. Liza took charge of the invitations while I focused on the food and setting up the space. As we worked together, I could feel the bond between us strengthening. We laughed as we prepped, sharing stories and memories, and for the first time in weeks, the weight of the past seemed to lift. The day of the gathering arrived, and our apartment buzzed with energy. Friends filled the space, laughter echoing off the walls. I watched as Liza moved among our guests, her smile genuine and bright. She was radiating a confidence I hadn't seen in a while, and it filled me with pride. As the evening unfolded, we shared stories and reminisced about happier times. People expressed their support, and the warmth of community enveloped us like a comforting blanket. I could see Liza relax, her shoulders dropping as she engaged with friends who reminded her of her worth beyond the scandal. In a quiet moment, I pulled Liza aside to the balcony. "How are you feeling?" I asked, watching her gaze over the city lights. "Surprisingly good," she replied, a soft smile on her lips. "It feels nice to be around people who care about us, who see beyond the headlines." "I'm proud of you," I said, taking her hand. "You've faced this head-on, and it's inspiring." "Thanks, Henry. I couldn't have done it without you. We're in this together, right?" "Always," I replied, squeezing her hand gently. As we returned to the party, I realized how important it was to have this support system. We could face our challenges together, surrounded by those who loved us. The laughter and conversations blended into a beautiful symphony of life, a stark contrast to the darkness we had been navigating. Later in the evening, I gathered everyone for a toast. "Thank you all for being here," I began, my voice steady. "This last month has been difficult, but we're determined to move forward. We're grateful for your support and love. Here's to new beginnings and the strength of community." Everyone raised their glasses, and as I glanced at Liza, I saw the pride shining in her eyes. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of hope. We were not defined by our mistakes, but rather by our resilience and the connections we nurtured. As the night wore on, we danced and laughed, leaving behind the weight of our past. Surrounded by love, I realized that while the journey ahead might still hold challenges, we had taken a significant step forward. Together we could face whatever came next, and I was determined to cherish every moment of it. The weeks following our gathering felt transformative. Liza and I had been reconnecting on levels I thought had been lost forever. Our relationship, once marred by betrayal and shame, now glowed with renewed energy and purpose. We were actively participating in each other's lives, talking about our dreams and fears, and planning for the future. One afternoon, Liza suggested we attend a yoga class together. It was a bittersweet idea. Yoga had once been a sanctuary for her, a space that now felt tainted by the memories of her infidelity. But I saw the determination in her eyes, a desire to reclaim what had been lost. "Let's go back," she said. "I want to face it." The day of the class, I felt a knot of anxiety twist in my stomach. Would the other students judge us? Would the instructor give us sideways glances, knowing the scandal that had circulated? Yet, as we walked into the familiar studio hand in hand, I felt a surge of support from Liza. We were in this together. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, filled with the calming sense of lavender and sandalwood. The instructor, Maya, greeted us with a smile, her energy calming my nerves. "I'm glad to see you both back," she said, her voice soothing. "Let's focus on healing today." As we began the class, I could feel the tension in my body melting away with each pose. Liza moved gracefully beside me, her breath steady. I was reminded of the strength she possessed, the same strength that had drawn me to her in the first place. Midway through, during a moment of stillness in a pose, I glanced over at her. She was deeply focused, a peaceful expression on her face. It struck me how much she had transformed, how much we both had. This class was a step towards reclaiming not just her space but our shared experiences. After class, as we rolled up our mats, Liza turned to me, her eyes bright. "I feel so much lighter," she said, her smile infectious. "It's like I've finally let go of some of the weight I've been carrying." "I feel it too," I replied, warmth spreading through me. This was exactly what we needed. In the weeks that followed, yoga became a regular part of our routine. Each class served as a reminder of our commitment to healing, both individually and as a couple. We found ourselves discussing our goals and aspirations after each session, brainstorming ways to support each other. One evening, as we sat on the couch after class, Liza turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "I've been thinking, maybe we should start a project together, something that combines both our interests." "What do you have in mind?" I asked, intrigued. "I was considering a wellness blog. We could share our journey, what we've learned, our ups and downs. It might help others going through tough times, and it would give us a creative outlet." The idea sparked a fire within me. "That sounds amazing. We could write about yoga, mental health, and our experiences. We could even include tips for rebuilding relationships." "Exactly," Liza exclaimed, her enthusiasm contagious. "We could invite guest bloggers too, friends from the yoga community, even therapists who specialize in relationships." As we brainstormed, the energy in the room shifted. This project wasn't just about sharing our story. It was about taking ownership of our narrative. We could turn our struggles into something positive, something that could help others find their way. The following weeks were filled with excitement as we began planning our blog. We set aside time each week to write, discussing our ideas and refining our vision. Liza's creativity flowed effortlessly, and I felt inspired by her passion. One evening, we sat at our dining table, laptops open, laughter mingling with the soft glow of candles. "What should we call it?" Liza asked, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "How about Reclaiming Us?" I suggested. "It reflects our journey back to each other." "I love it," she said, her smile radiant. "It captures everything we've been through and what we're working towards." As we worked together, I realized how much our bond had deepened. We were not just partners but collaborators, united by a shared vision. Each blog post became a cathartic experience, allowing us to process our feelings while also providing hope to others. As we prepared to launch, I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. Would our story resonate with others? Would they see the growth and healing we had experienced? But as Liza reminded me, we weren't doing this for validation, we were doing it to share our truth. On the day of the launch, we sat together in our living room, hearts racing. With a click, our blog went live, and the first post was out in the world. We looked at each other, a sense of accomplishment washing over us. "This is just the beginning," Liza said, squeezing my hand. "We're taking control of our narrative." And in that moment, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Together, we were not just surviving, we were thriving. We were reclaiming our story, one word at a time. The days following the launch of our blog felt electric. Each notification brought a rush of excitement. Comments from friends and strangers alike poured in, expressing gratitude for our honesty and vulnerability. It felt surreal to see our experiences resonating with others. Liza and I spent hours reading through feedback, each message reinforcing the belief that sharing our story was the right choice. But as the initial thrill settled, I began to notice something else creeping in, a shadow of anxiety. The more people engaged with our posts, the more exposed I felt. Each new follower felt like an added layer of scrutiny. What if they judged us? What if the past resurfaced in ways we hadn't anticipated? One evening, as we sat down to write our next post, Liza turned to me, her brow slightly furrowed. "Are you okay?" she asked, her tone gentle. "You seem a bit distant." I hesitated before responding. "I guess I'm just feeling a little overwhelmed. The attention feels intense. I'm worried about how it might affect us." Liza nodded, understanding in her eyes. "I get that. It can be a lot to handle, especially given our history. But we're in control of our narrative, remember? We can choose what to share and how to engage." "You're right," I said, taking a deep breath. "I think I just need to remind myself why we started this. It's not just about sharing our story but also connecting with others who might be struggling." As we discussed it further, I began to feel the tension ease. We agreed to focus on topics that felt authentic to us, sharing not only our triumphs but also our challenges. The goal was to foster a space of openness and support, both for ourselves and our readers. In the days that followed, we wrote about topics like self-care, setting boundaries, and how to navigate difficult conversations in relationships. Each post felt like a step toward healing, not just for our audience but for us as well. It was cathartic to articulate our journey, to see the lessons we had learned laid out in words. However, the real test came when I received a message that made my heart race, a direct message from a follower who claimed to know about Liza's affair. "I can't believe you're both trying to act like nothing happened," the message read. "You're just pretending for the sake of your blog." My heart sank. I felt the air leave my lungs as I shared the message with Liza. "What do we do?" I asked, panic rising in my chest. She read the message, her expression shifting from shock to determination. "We address it. We can't let someone else define our story. We need to confront the reality of our past openly." I swallowed hard, anxiety bubbling up again. "But what if it backfires? What if people turn on us?" Liza took my hands, her grip firm and reassuring. "Then we'll face it together. We've come this far. Honesty is what brought us here, and it's what will keep us moving forward." After a long discussion, we crafted a response for our next blog post. It was honest, acknowledging the pain of our past while emphasizing our commitment to growth and healing. We wanted our readers to understand that the journey was not linear. It was messy, complicated, and beautiful all at once. When the post went live, a wave of emotions washed over me: fear, vulnerability, but also relief. I felt exposed, yet liberated. We were no longer hiding from our truth, we were owning it. The responses that followed were a mix of support and criticism. Many readers appreciated our honesty, applauding us for confronting the past rather than sweeping it under the rug. Some, however, were quick to judge, accusing us of seeking attention or capitalizing on our misfortunes. Each comment stung, but we reminded ourselves that not everyone would understand our journey. Throughout this tumultuous week, I saw Liza shine. She was resilient, unfazed by the negativity. Her unwavering strength inspired me to dig deeper into my own vulnerability. We began to talk more openly about our feelings regarding the backlash, allowing ourselves to feel hurt but also to recognize the progress we had made. One night, after a particularly tough day, we sat on the balcony, the stars twinkling above us. I never imagined sharing our story would be this challenging, I admitted, leaning back in my chair. Liza looked at me, her eyes sparkling in the moonlight. But it's also been empowering. We're rewriting our narrative, taking back control. We're showing people that healing is possible, even when it feels impossible. Her words resonated deeply within me. I realized that while the path ahead would undoubtedly hold challenges, it was also filled with opportunities for growth. Together we had transformed our pain into purpose. That night, as we settled into bed, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. We were no longer defined by our past, but rather by our willingness to confront it. With Liza by my side, I knew we could navigate whatever storms lay ahead. Together, we were not just surviving, we were thriving. And that realization was worth every ounce of vulnerability we had shared. As the weeks progressed, our blog continued to gain traction. More readers were engaging with our posts, and we started receiving requests for advice and stories from people who had faced similar struggles. It felt incredible to connect with so many individuals seeking solace and understanding. Each message reinforced our commitment to authenticity and vulnerability. One evening, after a particularly rewarding day of interactions, Liza and I sat on the couch, laptops open, ready to brainstorm our next post. We should write about boundaries, Liza suggested. It's such an important part of healing in relationships. I nodded, excited about the idea. Yes, we can share what we've learned about setting boundaries, both with each other and in our interactions with others. It's crucial for rebuilding trust. As we drafted the post, the conversation turned to our own boundaries. Have we discussed what we both need moving forward? I asked, my tone shifting to a more serious note. Liza paused, her brow furrowing. I think we've touched on it, but maybe we should go deeper. I want to make sure we're both on the same page. Agreed, I replied, feeling a sense of urgency. What do you feel is essential for you? She took a moment to collect her thoughts. For me, I need to know that we're both committed to being honest about our feelings, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. I don't want us to fall back into old patterns of hiding things from each other. That's crucial, I said. I feel the same way. We've built so much trust, but I think we need to revisit our communication styles as well. As we discussed our needs, I felt the weight of past miscommunications lifting. We explored areas where we had previously struggled, laying bare our insecurities and fears. It felt raw, but it was also liberating. We should write about this, Liza said suddenly. Our readers would benefit from hearing about our process, how we're working through setting boundaries and maintaining open communication. That's a fantastic idea, I agreed. We can frame it as part of our ongoing journey of healing and growth. It's not just about what happened, but how we're actively working to prevent it from happening again. The next day we crafted the post, pouring our hearts into every word. We emphasized the importance of vulnerability and trust, sharing specific examples of how we navigated difficult conversations. It felt like another step in our healing process, not just for us, but for anyone who might read it. When the post went live, we received an outpouring of support. Readers shared their own stories, many expressing gratitude for our honesty. However, amidst the positivity, there were still echoes of negativity. A few comments questioned whether we were truly committed to change or if this was just another phase. I felt my heart race as I read those comments. Doubt seeped in and I turned to Liza, who was sitting beside me. What if they're right? What if we're just pretending to have it all together? She reached for my hand, her touch grounding. We can't let the opinions of others dictate our journey. We know the truth of our situation and the work we're putting in. It's okay to feel uncertain, but we have to focus on our progress. You're right, I said, taking a deep breath. It's just frustrating. I want to prove that we're serious about this. And we will, she replied. But we have to remember that our journey is our own. It's not about anyone else's expectations. As the days turned into weeks, I gradually started to internalize Liza's words. We continued writing, each post a reflection of our ongoing journey. We shared our struggles, the highs and lows, and the moments of doubt. I learned to appreciate the value in transparency, not just for our readers but for ourselves. One afternoon, Liza suggested we host a live QAMP, a session on our blog's platform. It would give our readers a chance to ask questions and engage with us directly, she said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I hesitated, anxiety creeping in. What if we can't answer everything? What if we say something wrong? Liza smiled, a reassuring presence. We won't have all the answers, but that's okay. It's about being real with our audience, showing them that we're still learning and growing too. With some encouragement, I agreed, and we set a date for the session. As the day approached, nerves churned in my stomach. Would anyone even show up? What if it turned into a disaster? Finally, the day arrived. As the time drew nearer, I felt a mix of excitement and dread. Liza and I sat together, checking the setup, and I glanced at the comments rolling in as people began to join. When the session began, I was surprised to see so many familiar names among the attendees. Liza introduced us, and I felt a wave of support wash over me. We answered questions about our relationship, shared insights about boundaries, and discussed how we managed to rebuild trust. As the session unfolded, I noticed something beautiful. The community we had fostered was thriving. People were sharing their experiences, offering advice, and supporting one another in the chat. It felt like a gathering of souls, all navigating the complexities of life together. Afterward, as we closed the session, I turned to Liza, a grin spreading across my face. "That was amazing. I can't believe how supportive everyone was." "It really was," she replied, her eyes shining. "It felt like we were all in this together, learning from one another." In that moment, I realized how far we had come, not just in our relationship but in our ability to connect with others. We were no longer defined by our past mistakes. Instead, we were part of a community striving for growth and understanding. Together, we were creating something meaningful, and it was a journey I felt honored to share with Liza by my side. With each new experience, I became more confident that we were on the right path, one filled with hope, healing, and a renewed sense of purpose. As the weeks turned into months, our blog became a cornerstone of our lives. It wasn't just an outlet for sharing our story. It had transformed into a community of support and encouragement. Readers frequently reached out to us, sharing their own journeys and the challenges they faced. It felt empowering to know we were making a difference, however small, in their lives. One evening, as we sat on the couch reviewing comments from our latest post, Liza's face lit up with excitement. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a particularly heartfelt message. Someone shared that our posts helped them find the courage to confront their partner about their own infidelity. They said it changed their relationship for the better. I felt a swell of pride mixed with disbelief. That's incredible. I never imagined our experiences could inspire someone else to take such a big step. Liza smiled, her eyes sparkling. "It makes everything we've been through feel worthwhile, doesn't it? It's like our pain is turning into purpose." With each passing day, our commitment to transparency deepened. We wrote about topics like forgiveness, vulnerability, and self-discovery, allowing our readers to see not just the polished moments but also the messy, imperfect aspects of our journey. We were honest about our struggles and our victories, creating a space where authenticity thrived. However, the more we shared, the more we had to navigate. One evening, as we prepared for our weekly writing session, I noticed Liza seemed preoccupied. "Is everything okay?" I asked, concern creeping into my voice. She sighed, looking down. "I just can't shake this feeling that we're exposing too much. What if we share something too personal? I don't want to regret anything we say." Her vulnerability resonated with me. "I get it, it's a fine line we're walking, but I think as long as we stay true to ourselves and focus on the lessons rather than just the details, we'll be okay." Liza nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Maybe we should establish some boundaries around what we share. It might help us feel more secure." "Definitely. Let's talk about what feels comfortable and what doesn't. We should both have a say in what we're putting out there." That evening, we sat down and created a list of topics we were comfortable discussing publicly, as well as those we felt were off limits. It was a grounding exercise that reinforced our commitment to protecting our emotional space while still being open and honest. Once we finalized our boundaries, we resumed our writing, both feeling lighter. The conversation flowed more freely, and the next post took shape naturally. We wrote about the importance of establishing personal boundaries in relationships, drawing from our own experiences. When the post went live, it was met with an enthusiastic response. Readers engaged with the content, sharing their own boundaries and how they had navigated similar conversations in their relationships. I could see how much our community had grown. It felt like a collective healing space. But as we celebrated our successes, I was reminded that the path wasn't without challenges. One day, I received an unexpected message from Mark, the yoga instructor with whom Liza had once had an affair. My heart raced as I opened it, unsure of what to expect. "Hey Henry," the message began, casual yet loaded. "I've been following your blog. It's great to see you both doing well. I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. I know things were rough." My initial instinct was to ignore it. Why would he reach out now? But something compelled me to respond. "Thanks, Mark. We're working through everything and focusing on healing. How are you?" As I hit send, I felt a wave of anxiety wash over me. I couldn't help but wonder what his intentions were. Would he try to reignite old feelings or simply check in out of guilt? A few days passed and I received another message from him. "I appreciate you being open. I've had a lot of time to reflect on everything that happened. I just wanted to say I'm genuinely sorry for how things turned out. I never wanted to hurt either of you." The sincerity in his words struck me. I felt a mix of emotions, anger, hurt, but also understanding. We all make mistakes. "Thank you for reaching out," I typed back cautiously. It was a difficult time for all of us. I showed the messages to Liza later that evening. Her expression was a mix of surprise and curiosity. "What do you think he wants?" she asked. "I'm not sure," I admitted, "but I think he's trying to take responsibility for his actions. It might be worth hearing him out." "Maybe it could bring closure," she suggested, her tone thoughtful. "As long as we're both on the same page." After discussing it, we decided to arrange a call with Mark. It felt like a step into uncharted territory, but we both recognized the importance of confronting the past openly. The day of the call arrived, and I felt a mixture of apprehension and curiosity. When Mark answered, he seemed genuine, a tone of sincerity in his voice. We exchanged pleasantries before diving into the heart of the matter. "I wanted to apologize again," he began, his words steady. "I've been reflecting on my actions, and I realize how much pain I caused both of you. I've learned a lot since then, and I hope you can find it in yourselves to forgive me." His apology hung in the air, heavy yet cathartic. "We've been working on forgiveness ourselves," I replied carefully. "It's a process, but we're committed to it." Mark nodded, a flicker of relief evident on his face. "Thank you for that. I truly wish you both the best. I want to see you succeed." As the call concluded, I turned to Liza, who looked contemplative. "How do you feel about that?" "It was surprisingly healing," she admitted. "I didn't expect it, but hearing him take responsibility felt like a step toward closure for both of us." I agreed. In that moment, I realized how much we had grown, not just as individuals but as a couple. We were confronting our pasts, allowing ourselves to heal, and creating a future filled with understanding and growth. Our journey was ongoing, but I felt more confident than ever that together we could face whatever lay ahead. With each step, we were not just reclaiming our narrative, we were rewriting our lives. And that was a story worth sharing. The more we shared our story, the more our lives became intertwined with our readers. I found myself waking up each morning with a renewed sense of purpose, eager to dive into our community's comments and messages. Each interaction felt like a thread weaving us closer to others navigating their own struggles. One morning, I noticed a particularly heartfelt comment on our latest post. A reader named Sarah had opened up about her experience with betrayal in her own marriage. She detailed how reading our blog had inspired her to confront her partner, and her honesty struck a chord with me. I shared her comment with Liza over breakfast, and we both felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. "We're really making a difference," Liza said, her voice filled with warmth. "It's incredible how our vulnerability is resonating with others." I nodded, feeling a surge of motivation. We should reach out to Sarah. Maybe she'd be open to sharing her story with our community. It could help others who are facing similar challenges. After a quick discussion, we decided to send Sarah a message inviting her to collaborate on a post. A few hours later, she responded enthusiastically, eager to share her journey. As we planned the details, I felt a sense of excitement. This was more than just our story. It was becoming a platform for collective healing. When the day came for our call with Sarah, I felt a mix of nerves and anticipation. Liza and I sat together, ready to welcome her into our space. As we began, Sarah's energy was infectious. She shared her story with raw honesty, recounting her struggles with trust and the steps she had taken to rebuild her marriage. "It's been a long road," she said, her voice trembling with emotion, "but I've learned so much about myself in the process. Your blog gave me the courage to speak up, to demand honesty from my partner." Listening to her, I felt a profound sense of connection. It was incredible to see how our experiences could inspire someone else to reclaim their narrative. We spent the next hour discussing her journey, sharing advice, and celebrating the progress she had made. By the end of our conversation, I was left in awe of Sarah's resilience. As we wrapped up, she thanked us for the opportunity to share her story. "I hope it helps someone out there who's feeling lost," she said, "just like your blog helped me." After she logged off, Liza and I exchanged glances filled with understanding. "This is what it's all about," Liza said, her voice soft but resolute, "creating a space for healing and growth." We wasted no time crafting the post featuring Sarah's story, intertwining her journey with our own insights. As we wrote, I felt the power of shared experiences take shape. It was no longer just our narrative, it was a collective testament to resilience, vulnerability, and the importance of honesty. When the post went live, the response was overwhelmingly positive. Readers resonated with Sarah's story, offering their support and sharing their own experiences in the comments. I felt a sense of joy swelling within me. We were creating a community of understanding. Yet, as we basked in the glow of this success, a thought nagged at the back of my mind. Would we always be defined by our past mistakes? Were we truly moving forward, or were we merely navigating a cycle of reflection and vulnerability without real progress? One evening after a long day, I sat on the balcony staring out at the stars. Liza joined me, sensing my unease. "What's on your mind?" she asked gently. I took a deep breath, unsure of how to articulate my thoughts. I wonder if we're really healing or if we're stuck in this loop of talking about our past. Sometimes it feels like we're just reliving it. Liza considered my words for a moment. "I understand what you're saying. It's important to reflect on our past, but we also need to focus on our future. Let's talk about our goals and what we want to achieve moving forward." Her suggestion sparked a sense of clarity within me. "You're right, we've come so far, but it's time we set some intentions for the next chapter of our lives." We spent the next hour discussing our aspirations, both individually and as a couple. I spoke about wanting to focus more on personal growth, perhaps exploring new hobbies or interests outside of our blog. Liza shared her desire to strengthen our connection through new experiences, such as traveling together or taking up a shared activity. As we mapped out our goals, I felt the weight of my earlier concerns lift. We were not just reflecting on our past, we were actively shaping our future. It was a beautiful realization. The following week, we dedicated our blog post to this new chapter, outlining our intentions and inviting our readers to join us on the journey. We encouraged them to set their own goals, fostering a sense of shared accountability. When the post went live, the response was invigorating. Readers began sharing their own goals, expressing excitement about embarking on new adventures. I felt a sense of empowerment, realizing that healing wasn't just about addressing past pain, it was also about embracing the possibilities that lay ahead. As the weeks passed, we dove headfirst into our new pursuits. Liza signed us up for a cooking class, something we had always wanted to try together. I took up photography, eager to capture the beauty of our everyday lives. Each new experience felt like a building block, reinforcing the foundation we had created together. One evening after a cooking class, we returned home, laughter echoing in the air. "I can't believe how much fun that was," Liza exclaimed, wiping flour from her hands. "We should make this a weekly tradition." I nodded, feeling a warmth in my chest. "Absolutely. It's nice to create new memories together." That night, as we settled into bed, I reflected on how far we had come. Our journey was no longer just about healing from betrayal. It was about growing together, discovering new facets of our relationship, and embracing the future with open hearts. Together, we had turned the page. Our past, while still a part of our story, was no longer the entirety of it. We were writing a new narrative, one filled with hope, growth, and endless possibilities. And for the first time in a long time, I felt excited about what lay ahead. As we continued our journey of growth and discovery, life began to take on a new rhythm. The cooking classes had become a cherished ritual, each week filled with laughter and new recipes that turned our kitchen into a vibrant hub of creativity. With every dish we prepared, I felt our connection deepen, nourished not just by the food but by the shared experiences. One evening, as we chopped vegetables together, Liza suddenly paused, a thoughtful look crossing her face. "You know, we've come a long way. It's like we're reinventing our lives, piece by piece." I nodded, smiling as I stirred the simmering sauce. "It really does feel that way. I never imagined we could shift our focus from the past to the future so seamlessly." "Maybe we should document this transformation in a special way," she suggested. "What if we create a mini-series on the blog that highlights our new experiences?" I loved the idea. That would be perfect. We can share the ups and downs of trying new things and encourage our readers to step out of their comfort zones too. We brainstormed this series over dinner, planning to showcase not just our cooking but also our photography adventures, new hobbies, and the lessons we learned along the way. It felt invigorating to frame our story as one of renewal rather than solely of recovery. The next day, we kicked off the series with a post titled "Reinventing Ourselves, A Journey of New Experiences." We shared snippets of our cooking classes, along with photos of the dishes we had created. Readers responded enthusiastically, eager to join us on this fresh path. As the weeks went by, the mini-series blossomed. Each post showcased a different aspect of our journey. One week, we'd explore a new hiking trail. The next, we'd delve into the art of pottery. We invited our readers to share their own experiences, creating a vibrant dialogue within our community. In one post, we wrote about a pottery class that had challenged us both. I remember the laughter that erupted when our creations turned out to be lopsided and far from perfect. "This is definitely a work in progress," Liza had joked, holding up her misshapen bowl. "But it's a beautiful reminder that growth isn't always perfect." That sentiment resonated deeply with our audience. We received messages from readers who were inspired to try new hobbies themselves, sharing their successes and failures. The sense of camaraderie was palpable, and I felt grateful to be a part of something so uplifting. But amidst this wave of positivity, I found myself wrestling with an underlying anxiety. I wanted to embrace this new chapter fully, but echoes of doubt occasionally crept in. What if I wasn't good enough? What if our journey didn't inspire others the way I hoped? One night, as I lay awake, these thoughts swirled in my mind. I turned to Liza, who was already fast asleep. I watched her peaceful expression, and a wave of warmth washed over me. She had been my anchor through so much, and I didn't want to let my fears overshadow the progress we had made. The next morning, I decided to share my feelings with her. Over breakfast I hesitated but finally opened up. Liza, I've been feeling a bit overwhelmed lately. Sometimes I worry that I'm not living up to the expectations we've set with our blog. Her eyes softened, and she reached across the table, taking my hand. I appreciate you sharing that with me. It's completely normal to feel that way, especially with everything we've been doing. But remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about being real. I know, I said, taking a deep breath. It's just hard sometimes to balance everything, and I don't want to let anyone down. You're not going to let anyone down, she reassured me. Our readers appreciate our authenticity. They connect with our journey because it's real and relatable. We're all just figuring it out together. Her words resonated deeply, easing some of the weight on my shoulders. I realized that our blog was not just a showcase of success, it was a testament to the ups and downs of life, a reminder that growth is a journey filled with uncertainty and resilience. With renewed clarity, I committed to embracing vulnerability, both in our posts and in my own emotions. That afternoon, I sat down to write a blog entry about my struggles, framing it as a reminder to our readers that it's okay to feel unsure and to voice those feelings. Our journey isn't about perfection, I wrote, but about the beauty found in embracing our authentic selves. When I shared the post, I held my breath, unsure of how it would be received. But the response was overwhelmingly positive. Readers expressed gratitude for the honesty and shared their own experiences of doubt and vulnerability. It felt like a wave of connection washed over me, reaffirming that we were all in this together. In the following weeks, our series continued to flourish. We explored new cuisines, attended workshops, and even tried our hand at dance classes. Each new experience reinforced our bond, and our relationship deepened as we navigated the joys and challenges together. As we prepared to wrap up the mini-series, I felt a sense of accomplishment. We had documented not just our attempts at new activities but also our growth as individuals and as a couple. It was a celebration of resilience, vulnerability, and the power of shared experiences. On the day of the final post, Liza and I sat together, reflecting on everything we had accomplished. "Can you believe how far we've come?" she asked, a smile spreading across her face. "It feels like we've created something truly special." I nodded, filled with gratitude. "We've built a community of support and inspiration. I'm so proud of us." That evening, we hit publish on the final installment of our series. In it, we shared our favorite moments, lessons learned, and encouraged our readers to continue exploring new experiences in their own lives. As the comments rolled in, filled with appreciation and excitement, I felt a profound sense of connection with our community. We weren't just sharing our journey, we were inviting others to embark on their own paths of discovery. And as I reflected on our experiences, I realized that the journey of reinvention was ongoing. Life would continue to present challenges, but together, Liza and I would face them with open hearts and an unwavering commitment to growth. We had turned the page, and the story was only just beginning. With the conclusion of our mini-series, a sense of excitement lingered in the air. The feedback we received fueled our motivation, and the community we had built felt like an extension of our own family. Each comment and message reflected the warmth and understanding that had blossomed among us, and I couldn't help but feel grateful for the journey we had embarked on together. As we settled into our new routine, Liza suggested we explore a weekend getaway. "Let's take a break from our usual surroundings," she proposed one evening. "We could visit that quaint little cabin in the woods we've talked about for ages." The idea struck a chord with me. That sounds perfect. A chance to disconnect and recharge. We spent the next few days planning our escape, excitedly packing our bags with the essentials, comfortable clothes, a few books, and ingredients for a cozy dinner. The drive to the cabin was filled with laughter and music, the scenery transitioning from urban landscapes to lush greenery. When we arrived, the tranquility enveloped us, the only sounds being the rustling of leaves and the distant chirping of birds. It felt like a sanctuary, a place to breathe and reflect. That first evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, we lit a fire in the fireplace and settled onto the couch, sipping hot cocoa. The warmth of the flames cast a cozy glow around us, and for a moment everything felt perfect. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Liza mused, her gaze flickering to the dancing flames. "It feels surreal to think about everything we've been through." I nodded, taking a sip of my drink. "It really does. I'm grateful for the challenges because they've brought us here to this moment. We talked late into the night, sharing dreams and aspirations. I spoke about my desire to deepen my photography skills, to capture the world in a way that resonated with my soul. Liza shared her longing to explore art, perhaps through painting or even writing. I want to create something beautiful, she said, her eyes sparkling. Something that reflects our journey and the growth we've experienced. The next day, we decided to explore the surrounding area. Armed with a camera and a sketchbook, we set off on a hiking trail, the beauty of nature enveloping us. As we walked, I captured moments through my lens, the sunlight filtering through the trees, the delicate petals of wildflowers, and the serene beauty of the lake that we stumbled upon. Liza, inspired by the scenery, sat by the water's edge and began to sketch. I watched her, feeling a sense of awe at how effortlessly she captured the world around her. "You have such a talent for this," I called out, snapping a candid shot of her in her element. "Thank you. I'm just trying to soak it all in," she replied, looking up with a smile. "This place is magical." After a few hours of exploration, we returned to the cabin, energized by the beauty we had witnessed. That evening, we prepared dinner together, laughing as we tried to follow a new recipe. Cooking together had become a joyful dance, each of us stepping in and out of the kitchen, sharing tasks and teasing each other along the way. As we sat down to eat, I felt a sense of contentment wash over me. The food wasn't perfect, but it was made with love and laughter. "This might just be the best meal we've ever made," I joked, raising my glass in a toast. "To new experiences and endless possibilities," Liza chimed in, her eyes sparkling. Over the next few days, we continued to explore the cabin's surroundings, immersing ourselves in nature. We took long hikes, watched the stars at night, and shared our thoughts under the expansive sky. It was a reminder of how small our worries were in the grand scheme of things, and how much beauty there was in simply being present. One afternoon, while sitting on the porch, I took out my camera to capture the sunset. The sky was painted with hues of orange, pink, and purple, a breathtaking display that felt almost ethereal. As I snapped photo after photo, I felt a surge of creativity coursing through me. "Can I see?" Liza asked, peering over my shoulder. "Of course," I replied, handing her the camera. She flipped through the shots, her face lighting up with each image. "These are amazing. You really have an eye for this." I felt a warmth at her encouragement. "Thanks, but it's easy when the subject is this beautiful." As we continued to connect with nature, I realized that our getaway was more than just a break from routine. It was an opportunity for introspection. I found myself reflecting on what had truly changed within me. The experiences we shared had cultivated a sense of resilience, a reminder that we could face anything together. On our last night, we decided to have a small bonfire outside. As the flames crackled, we settled onto blankets, the night air cool against our skin. Liza gazed at the stars, her face illuminated by the firelight. "I wish we could bottle up this moment," she said softly. "It feels like magic." I leaned back, taking in the serenity around us. "It really does. This is the kind of magic that reminds us of what's important." With the fire flickering beside us, we talked about our dreams for the future, traveling to new places, creating art together, and building a life filled with love and connection. The more we spoke, the more I felt a sense of clarity about what I wanted, a life of adventure and creativity, side by side with Liza. As we packed our bags the next morning, a sense of bittersweet nostalgia washed over me. I was grateful for our time at the cabin, for the moments of connection and reflection. The experiences we shared had rekindled our bond and reignited our passions. Driving back, I couldn't help but glance at Liza, who was humming softly to the music playing in the background. In that moment, I knew that no matter where our journey took us, we would face it together, with open hearts, unwavering support, and a shared commitment to growth. The future was bright, and we were ready to embrace it, hand in hand. Returning from the cabin, life resumed its familiar pace, yet I felt different. The quiet moments we shared had shifted something within me, igniting a sense of purpose. I wanted to channel this renewed energy into something meaningful, not just for us, but for our community. One evening, as we sat on the couch with our laptops open, an idea struck me. What if we host a local event, something where our readers can come together, share their experiences, and connect in person? Liza's eyes widened with excitement. "That's a fantastic idea. We could set up a workshop or a discussion group. It would be a great way to build our community further." We spent hours brainstorming the details. I envisioned a day filled with creative activities, photography walks, art sessions, and discussions on personal growth. Liza suggested inviting local artists and facilitators to lead workshops, which would add depth to the experience. As we finalized our plans, I felt a rush of anticipation. This event could be a celebration of the journey we had all been on together, a space where vulnerability and connection could flourish. We decided to call it the Heart of Creativity. In the weeks leading up to the event, we worked tirelessly, We promoted it on our blog and social media, encouraging our readers to spread the word. The response was heartwarming. People from various backgrounds expressed their enthusiasm, sharing how they were excited to connect with others who had faced similar challenges. When the day finally arrived, I was a bundle of nerves and excitement. We arrived early to set up the space, transforming a cozy community center into an inviting atmosphere with colorful decorations, art supplies, and comfy seating areas. As guests began to arrive, the energy in the room shifted. I could feel the buzz of excitement as people mingled, sharing stories and laughter. It was a beautiful tapestry of human connection, and I felt a swell of gratitude for everyone who had come together. Liza and I opened the event with a warm welcome, thanking everyone for being there. "This is a space for all of us to explore, to share, and to connect," I said, looking out at the faces in the crowd. "We're here to celebrate our journeys, our creativity, and our resilience." After our introduction, we divided attendees into small groups for various activities. I led a photography walk around the nearby park, guiding participants to capture the beauty of nature and moments of connection. As we explored, I felt a sense of camaraderie building among the group. Everyone was eager to share their perspectives, and the photographs that emerged were filled with emotion and artistry. Meanwhile, Liza facilitated an art session, encouraging attendees to express their feelings through painting. The room filled with vibrant colors and laughter as participants let their creativity flow. I could see the joy on their faces as they discovered new ways to express themselves. Throughout the day, I moved between activities, soaking in the energy of our community. The stories being shared were powerful, echoing the same themes of vulnerability, growth, and resilience that had defined our own journey. As the sun began to set, we reconvened for a final discussion. Liza and I sat on a small stage, inviting people to share their experiences and insights from the day. One by one, attendees spoke up, recounting how the event had inspired them and opened new avenues of creativity. "I never thought I could feel this connected to a group of strangers," one woman said, her voice shaking with emotion. "Thank you for creating this space, it's given me hope." Hearing those words filled my heart with warmth. This was exactly what we had hoped to achieve, a space where people felt seen, heard, and valued. As we closed the event, I took a moment to reflect on how far we had come. This gathering was a testament to our collective journeys. Each person in that room had faced their own battles, yet here we were, united in our desire to grow and create. Later that night, as we cleaned up the space, Liza and I exchanged glances filled with understanding. "We did it," she said, her voice brimming with pride. I nodded, feeling a rush of gratitude. It was more than I ever imagined. I can't believe the connections that were made today. As we drove home, the streetlights flickering outside, I felt a sense of fulfillment wash over me. We had created something beautiful, a community that thrived on authenticity and support. The heart of creativity was just the beginning. I realized that this event had opened a door to new possibilities, and I felt excited about the journey ahead. Together we would continue to explore, create, and uplift one another, embracing the challenges and joys that lay ahead. And in that moment, as we drove through the quiet streets, I knew our story was only just beginning. We were part of a larger narrative, one that intertwined with the lives of others, creating a tapestry of hope, connection, and endless creativity. After the success of the Heart of Creativity event, our lives took on a vibrant new rhythm. The energy from that day lingered, and it felt as though we had tapped into a wellspring of inspiration. Our community was growing, and with it came a renewed sense of purpose. Liza and I started brainstorming how we could maintain this momentum. "What if we organize a monthly gathering?" she suggested one evening over dinner. "We could explore different themes each time, like photography, writing, or even mindfulness." I loved the idea. Yes, it would give everyone a chance to connect regularly and dive deeper into their creative journeys. We could call it Creative Connections. Over the next few weeks, we mapped out a schedule for the gatherings. Each month would feature a different focus, and we'd invite local artists and experts to lead the sessions. As we finalized our plans, excitement bubbled within me. This was our chance to create a consistent space for growth and collaboration. When the first Creative Connections gathering rolled around, I felt a mix of nerves and anticipation. We had chosen nature and photography as the theme, and I was eager to lead the workshop. The venue was a local park, with its sprawling greenery and vibrant flowers perfect for capturing the beauty of the outdoors. As participants began to arrive, I could feel the energy in the air. People greeted one another with smiles, exchanging stories about their experiences since the last event. It warmed my heart to see friendships blossoming. Liza set up an area for participants to showcase their previous works, creating a mini gallery that highlighted the artistic journeys of our attendees. It was a beautiful representation of the creativity that thrived within our community. Once everyone settled, I opened the session with a brief introduction. Thank you all for coming today. We're here to explore the beauty of nature through photography and to inspire each other. I felt a surge of enthusiasm as I spoke. Let's immerse ourselves in the environment and capture its essence. After sharing some tips and techniques, we set off on a nature walk, encouraging participants to experiment with their cameras. I wandered between groups, offering guidance and support as they snapped photos of flowers, trees, and wildlife. The laughter and chatter of the participants echoed in the air, creating a symphony of creativity. I found a quiet spot beneath an ancient oak tree, taking a moment to reflect. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting intricate patterns on the ground. I pulled out my camera and began to capture the moment, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for how far we had come. When we regrouped after the walk, I invited everyone to share their favorite photos. As images appeared on the screen, gasps of delight filled the room. Each photograph told a story, revealing the unique perspectives of each participant. One woman shared a stunning close-up of a bee on a flower. "I was surprised by how much detail I captured," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. "It's incredible to see how the smallest things can hold so much beauty." As each person shared, I felt a collective sense of joy and pride. These gatherings were more than just workshops. They were spaces where vulnerability met creativity. Attendees opened up about their journeys, their struggles, and their triumphs. It was a reminder that we were all on this path together. After the photo sharing, Liza led a brief mindfulness exercise. "Let's take a moment to ground ourselves and appreciate the beauty around us," she guided, her voice soothing and calm. "Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and listen to the sounds of nature." I watched as everyone followed her lead, their expressions softening. The stillness in the air was palpable, a collective breath shared among us. It felt like a sacred moment, a reminder of the connection we had forged. As the gathering drew to a close, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. People lingered, chatting and exchanging contact information, eager to continue the connections they had made. It was a beautiful sight to behold, a community blossoming before my eyes. On the drive home, Liza and I reflected on the day. "That was incredible," I said, my heart swelling with joy. "The energy was electric." "I know. It feels like we're building something really special here," she replied, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "I can't wait for the next gathering." We continued to brainstorm ideas for future themes as we settled in for the night. I realized that these creative connections gatherings were not only enriching our community, but also deepening our relationship. We were collaborating in ways that fueled our creativity and passion. In the weeks that followed, the momentum continued to grow. Each gathering attracted new participants, and the stories shared were filled with hope and resilience. The community was thriving, and I felt a sense of belonging that I had longed for. As I reflected on our journey, I couldn't help but feel grateful for the twists and turns that had brought us here. The struggles had shaped us, and the love we had cultivated in the process had transformed our lives. One evening, as I prepared to write a blog post about our recent gatherings, I paused to look out the window. The sunset painted the sky in hues of gold and pink, a reminder that beauty could be found in every moment. I thought about the connections we had fostered and the lives we had touched. The heart of creativity and creative connections had become beacons of hope for those seeking community and expression. I felt a sense of responsibility to nurture this space, to continue sharing our stories and supporting one another. As I put pen to paper, I knew that our journey was far from over. Together, Liza and I would continue to explore, create, and uplift not just ourselves but everyone around us. This was only the beginning of a beautiful chapter, one filled with endless possibilities and connections waiting to be made.